The Supreme Court as debate continues over whether former President Trump is eligible to be on primary ballots as a result of the events of January 6th. The nation's highest court could be forced to weigh in. In the latest decision, Maine's Secretary of State is declaring Trump cannot appear on that state's ballot. That follows a similar ruling by Colorado's Supreme Court. But in California, the Secretary of State is keeping Trump in the primary, despite some Democratic officials pushing to keep him out. Bill, it seems like each state has its own rules. Each state has its own system. It's a hodgepodge. It's kind of a mess. Where does this go from here?
It goes right to the Supreme Court.
Right to the Supreme Court?
I think some of these, the Colorado decision's already been appealed by the Colorado GOP to the Supreme Court, which is why he's back on the ballot. I think the Maine case goes to the Maine District Court. Yes, each state has its own election laws, but we all operate under one federal constitution. Right. So Section 14, or excuse me, Amendment 14, right. Section 3, is really, these are novel legal gymnastics that the Democrats have been using to try and knock Trump off the ballot. I think it only helps him politically. Right. I think it's an effort to try and drain his resources because he's got to get lawyers in each of these different jurisdictions to fight this mess. And it's not going to be settled until the U.S. Supreme Court comes in and finally says he's eligible to be on the ballot. And we've got Wisconsin coming up as well. There's a pending case there. I think it was a brewery owner is trying to keep Donald Trump off the ballot there. The question is, this has got to happen soon. We got caucus on January 15th, so 2.5 weeks away. We've got a New Hampshire primary on the 23rd. Then we've got South Carolina, Nevada, and then Super Tuesday on March 5th.
Yeah, but time waits for no man and time waits for no election. Bill and I can agree it's going to the Supreme Court because once the states rule, and remember, as a former state party chair myself with the D.C. Democratic Party, it goes to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court is going to be interesting because they've got to act quickly, but more importantly, as a conservative court, they love strict constructionism, right?
So they're going to read the exact language in the 14th Amendment.
Exactly.
And what does the exact language say?
The exact language says that if you were involved as an insurrectionist or and participated in it or supported it, and I'm paraphrasing, then you don't qualify for the ballot if you were an elected official or were an elected official.
All right, I'm going to ask Mick Mulvaney. Mick, you might have a different interpretation of the 14th Amendment, right?
Not interpretation, it's just reading the language. It's officers, okay, specifically identifies officers. Yeah. Everybody thinks that it says if you participated in insurrection, you can't stand for office. That's not what the language says. The language says that there were officers of the United States who then participated in insurrection. That's the language here, okay? And that's going to be probably what the Supreme Court looks at when they throw this out. Elsewhere in the Constitution, the president is called the president. The vice president is called the vice president. Here, for some reason, Colorado seems to think that officers, which goes way far down the pecking order, also sort of covers the president and the vice president. No, it's not. The language here is absolutely critical. And I do think that a strict constructionalist Supreme Court could not only support getting rid of what Colorado did, but you might get a 9-0 decision because of that language in the 14th Amendment.
Well, you know, you might expect that Democrats are going to be cheering on decisions in Colorado and Maine to keep the former president off the ballot. Not so Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, of course, mentioned as a possible presidential candidate himself in the future. He says there's no doubt that Donald Trump is a threat to our liberties and even to our democracy. But in California, we defeat candidates at the polls. Everything else is a political distraction. Tia, what's the play here on the part of Democrats?
Well, I think Democrats are concerned because they see Donald Trump using the ruling in Colorado, using the decision in Maine, and all the court cases to say this is Democrats trying to take away your right to vote, trying to take away your power at the ballot. And so Democrats don't want to look like they're playing into it. As much as I think they do agree, they don't think Trump is eligible. They do think he should be punished for January 6th. They don't want to be perceived as politicizing the court, politicizing this language in the Constitution. So I think that's why you're seeing so many Democrats kind of being resistant.
Let me get now here. I'm stopping you again, Scott. I'm sorry. It's all week long. I've been trying to get
moderate Republicans. Moderate Republicans have brought these cases. That's the first thing. And any officer is the plain language. And when Trump engaged as an insurrection, he was an officer of the United States. He was the president of the United States. And as an officer, it says any officer.
Okay.
Thank you for watching, and make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below. to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.